Imagine a tense war scenario where the clouds of uncertainty hover over a kingdom on the verge of facing an imminent massacre. The opposing forces, numerous and merciless, march forward toward destruction, and hopelessness sets in. However, at the darkest moment, an extraordinary event occurs. A celestial angel, sent by God, appears on the battlefield. What unfolds is an epic scene of divine power, where this angel defeats no less than 185,000 soldiers, thwarting the plans of destruction and ensuring the kingdom's survival. In today's video, we will go through all the details of this war, so fasten your seatbelts, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive into the story. In the turbulent setting of ancient kingdoms, a notable figure arises in the kingdom of Judah, King Hezekiah, son of Ahaz, who assumed the throne at the young age of 25, around the year 715 BC. After his father's death, Hezekiah did more than simply succeed him in the dynasty. He stood out for his deep commitment to the God of Israel. From the early days of his reign, Hezekiah demonstrated unwavering devotion to the Lord. His first major task was an energetic campaign to purify the temple in Jerusalem. Aware of the sacred importance of this place, Hezekiah undertook a mission to remove every trace of idolatry that had infiltrated the temple's grounds. Altars dedicated to pagan gods were demolished, and idols that had led the people's hearts astray were removed. Hezekiah did not stop at just destroying idolatrous elements, but also established a truth for the worship of the Lord. He instituted practices and rituals that reaffirmed faith in the God of Israel, restoring the spiritual purity of the temple. This campaign against idolatry was not a mere formality, but a reflection of Hezekiah's sincere heart. His zeal for the Lord was evident, as he did not hesitate to confront entrenched practices that had led the nation away from its divine purpose. His leadership not only shaped the worship at the temple, but also inspired a spiritual renewal among the people of Judah. A curious story relates to a bronze serpent raised by Moses during the Exodus, as recorded in the book of Numbers. Its creation was linked to divine healing, where those who were bitten by poisonous snakes could look at the bronze serpent and be healed. However, over time, this serpent became an object of worship known as Nehushtan. Instead of being a symbol of trust in God's power to heal, the serpent turned into an idol, violating the fundamental principles of worshipping a single God. When Hezekiah undertook his religious reforms in Judah, he made the bold decision to destroy the bronze serpent. His action not only broke ties with idolatrous practices, but also symbolized Hezekiah's commitment to restoring pure and exclusive worship of the God of Israel. Hezekiah's decision to eliminate idolatry was not without challenges. He faced resistance and criticism, but his trust in the God of Israel was unaffected. His commitment was more than a mere expression of religious zeal. It was a demonstration of unshakable trust in divine providence. By purifying the temple and abolishing idolatry, Hezekiah not only restored true worship, but also paved the way for divine intervention in his life and nation. The Lord responded to this act of faith with blessings, revealing himself as a God who honors those who seek him wholeheartedly. Thus, the story of King Hezekiah is not just a chapter in Judah's narrative, but a lasting testimony of how sincere commitment to God can transform not only a king's life, but an entire nation. Hezekiah left behind a legacy of faithfulness, reminding us of the importance of placing God at the center of our lives and societies. However, the worst was yet to come. In a period of political turbulence and constant threats, the imposing shadow of Sennacherib, the Assyrian king, loomed over Judah's borders. It was a time when nations were defined by military strength, and Sennacherib led the Assyrian nation, considered one of the most powerful in the world at that time. The Assyrian army, known for its cruelty and military efficiency, was an imminent threat to the surrounding kingdoms. Sennacherib, in his quest for expansion, ruthlessly advanced through the cities of Judah, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. However, his covetous eye was fixed on the jewel of the region, Jerusalem. Hezekiah, the God-fearing king, found himself cornered by the Assyrian threat, seeking a peaceful solution. He tried to persuade Sennacherib to abandon his plans to invade Jerusalem. In a desperate gesture, he offered a significant tribute, mobilizing the treasures of the temple and the palace in Jerusalem. The tribute was monumental: 10.5 tons of silver and 1 ton and 50 kilograms of gold, an offering that reflected not only material wealth, but also the depth of the desire to preserve the holy city. Hezekiah, in his quest for peace, was willing to sacrifice priceless treasures to protect his people and his capital. However, Sennacherib's response revealed the typical arrogance of conquerors of the time, dismissing the offer. The Assyrian king openly challenged both Hezekiah and the God of Israel. His defiant words echoed, claiming that just as the gods of the conquered nations could not stop him, the God of Israel would also be powerless against his onslaught. This affront not only exacerbated tensions, but solidified the need for divine intervention. Hezekiah, after the rejection of his peace attempts, turned to the only source that could guarantee deliverance: prayer and trust in the Lord. Faced with the imminent Assyrian threat, Hezekiah went through a period of intense uncertainty and doubt. The biblical account highlights his initial reaction of anguish in response to Sennacherib's ultimatum. He tore his clothes and put on sackcloth, traditional symbols of mourning and despair in Jewish culture at the time. King Hezekiah's heart was in despair, but his faith remained unshaken as the shadows of invasion loomed over Jerusalem. Hezekiah chose not to surrender to despair, but instead lifted his cry to the God of Israel. Rather than completely succumbing to fear and uncertainty, Hezekiah took concrete steps. He went to the Lord's temple to worship, seeking God's presence in the midst of adversity. This attitude reflects Hezekiah's understanding that even in the face of a formidable threat, his primary trust and refuge should be found in the Lord. Additionally, Hezekiah did not hesitate to seek divine guidance through the prophet Isaiah. He sent a delegation to the prophet dressed in sackcloth as a sign of humility and supplication. It is in this scene of anguish that the prophet Isaiah, chosen as the mouthpiece of the Almighty, brings a divine message to the king. Isaiah, instructed by the Lord, announces words of comfort and a promise of deliverance. The prophet's message was like balm to Hezekiah's troubled heart. "Do not be afraid of the words you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed against me. I will make him return by the way he came." Isaiah conveyed the words of the Lord, offering divine assurance of protection and supernatural intervention. The God of Israel would not remain indifferent to the pleas of his faithful servant. The promise was clear: the city would not be delivered into the hands of the king of Assyria. The God whom Hezekiah sought in prayer was about to manifest his power in response to the faith placed in him. Furthermore, Isaiah prophesied that Sennacherib would return to his own land and be killed by the sword in his homeland. This prophetic message not only calmed the king's heart, but also strengthened his faith. Hezekiah, even in the face of the magnitude of the threat, chose to trust in the word of the Lord, spoken through Isaiah. This trust was not just a matter of military strategy, but a total surrender to the God who controls destinies. The next day, the situation was grim. The walls of Jerusalem bore witness to the growing shadow of the Assyrian army, led by Sennacherib. However, while the city was on the brink of facing its most terrible trial, a heavenly chapter was about to unfold in the darkness of the night, when silence was only interrupted by the distant murmur of the Assyrian camp. Divine intervention was underway. The Lord sent his angel, a celestial figure shrouded in light and power to confront the army threatening his chosen people. The angel, emissary of the Almighty, hovered over the Assyrian camp like a divine sentinel. In a single night, a celestial being defeated 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. The heavenly battlefield was beyond human comprehension, and the victory did not come through human military strategies, but by the supernatural power of the angel sent by the God of Israel. The miracle went beyond military defeat. It was a tangible manifestation of divine care and protection. The promise made through the prophet Isaiah was being fulfilled. The God of Israel not only heard Hezekiah's anguished prayers, but acted with unparalleled power to deliver his people from the Assyrian threat. As the inhabitants of Jerusalem walked through the fields that had once been the site of the Assyrian camp, they encountered a startling sight. Where the enemy army's tents once stood, now 185,000 lifeless bodies lay there, a graphic demonstration of the divine power that had operated during the night. A silence enveloped the defeated camp, broken only by murmurs of awe and gratitude. Each corpse bore witness to the supernatural intervention that had turned an impending nightmare into an undeniable miracle. The faith of the people, who had faced a night of anxiety, blossomed in the morning light, now illuminated by divine victory. The citizens of Judah not only beheld the remnants of the miracle, but felt it deeply within their hearts. The victory over the Assyrians had not been achieved by military strategies or human strength. It was the visible manifestation of divine favor. That morning became a living testimony to the faithfulness of the God of Israel. The fate of Sennacherib took an unexpected turn. The Assyrian army's leader managed to flee despite the magnitude of the miracle. After his failed attempts to conquer Jerusalem and his mockery of the God of Israel, he returned to Nineveh. However, his end was far from grand, as he might have imagined. While worshipping in his own temple, Sennacherib was assassinated by his own sons, Adramelech and Sar-Ezer. The precise details of this event are not entirely clear in the historical narrative. However, the Bible recounts that during this act of worship, Adramelech and Sar-Ezer attacked Sennacherib with a sword, taking his life. This shocking event demonstrates that arrogance and disbelief in the face of God do not go unpunished. Divine justice, in an unexpected manner, reached Sennacherib, highlighting that no king, no matter how powerful, can escape God's sovereign control over life and death. This tragic outcome reveals that mocking the Lord has serious consequences, and that divine sovereignty cannot be challenged without facing repercussions for the king. After the impressive victory over Sennacherib and the withdrawal of the Assyrian forces, Hezekiah faced a severe illness. The Bible describes this situation in 2 Kings chapter 20. Hezekiah became so ill that the prophet Isaiah, son of Amoz, came to him and announced that he would not recover and should prepare for death. Faced with this news, Hezekiah once again turned to the Lord in prayer. He reminded God of his devotion, integrity, and service to the Lord. In tears, he pleaded with God to remember him and reconsider his situation. God, in response to Hezekiah's sincere prayer, sent Isaiah back to tell him that he had heard his plea. God decided to heal Hezekiah and gave a sign as a guarantee. Isaiah instructed that a poultice of figs be applied to Hezekiah's wound as a miraculous sign. Hezekiah's illness was cured, and he regained his health. Additionally, as a manifestation of his mercy, God promised Hezekiah 15 more years of life. This extension of time was a direct response to Hezekiah's fervent prayer and devotion to the Lord. This story highlights not only God's healing power, but also his willingness to hear and respond to the prayers of his faithful servants. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments if God has ever manifested himself in your life after you made a prayer request. Blessings, and may God be with you.